Hello and welcome. My name is Diana, and I am the Death Pile Diva, and you are watching Interview With. It's a new YouTube show where I interview successful resellers so we can learn from them and grow our own businesses. Today, I am beyond excited, so honored. I have the one, the only Julie from Casa Chic. Welcome! Yay! And I
I'm
should get
so happy to be here.
like a round of applause sound effect. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being here. I am so just honored and happy to have you on the
Oh,
show. Like, truly, this is fantastic. I'm fangirling a little bit, but I'll,
I'm fangirling because I love your account too. So it's like a mutual,
we're just like,
we'll
oh my
talk
God.
afterwards.
Right. I love it. So before we get into like all the serious business stuff, so let's just do a little like a silly scenario. Say you're driving to a thrift store, or maybe you're going to pick up, yeah, like consignment pieces, or you're doing something resellery. What are you drinking along the way? Do you even have like a drink that you go to?
Yes. Well, in the car,
Yes.
yeah, Diet Coke. And I've tried to give it up and I know it's terrible. I even like went to a hypnotist and gave it up for a while. I paid this guy like $300 and I did give it up for a while. And then a stressful moment hits and it's my only real vice. And I know I should not do it. And it's always on the plan to give it up. So do,
No, I
leave the
hear you.
comments. I know.
Right, I know. Like we don't need. We
I
know.
know it's the worst thing, but you know,
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I love Diet Pepsi. Oh my goodness,
uh,
it's
yeah.
delicious.
Yeah, it's bad. I know. It's very addictive. And one day I will kick it, but every time it's like my comfort, like I'm good and then I have like a stressful period, any little thing, like a
Oh
hangnail. It's like, oh,
yeah. Like, where's the Diet Pepsi? Someone get me a fountain drink.
yes. And I'll drink Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke. In Europe they don't have either, so I was drinking Coke Zero. Any kind of Diet Cola, I'm not snobby about it. So,
Oh yeah,
unfortunately.
I'm the same. I know, and same thing. I tried to kick it. I think I did a little bit in college, and then finals hit, and then that was it. So,
Yeah, no, bad.
15 years later, here we are. So, it is what it is. Awesome. And now also say you're driving to, your thrift store, your consignment client, wherever. Do we have anything on the radio? Are we driving in silence, or what are we listening to?
I love all kinds of music and like I'm an 80s kid, but I listen to everything pretty much. My music taste is very eclectic. So it just depends on the mood and I sing out loud when I'm in my car by myself. So if you
We
see me on the road just
right.
bopping along, that's just mind your own business.
Well, that's just Julie.
Go
That's awesome.
right into the thrift store. Ah!
Yeah. Like, just belting it out. No, it's the best when you're in your car by yourself. It's your own private concert.
It's the best.
It really is. Awesome. Well, viewer, let us know if you have a drink that your go-to drink when you go to the thrift store. And what do you listen to? Because I know I cannot ride in silence, but some people do. Like what, do you have like a pep up song? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. All right. So I know a lot of people know about your career, but let's just pretend no one knows anything. So, what did you do before reselling, and how did that impact you, or what kind of skills did you take from that into reselling?
Well, I'm a trial lawyer. I was a lawyer and I had two kids in 2 years, two maternity leaves in 2 years. I was the only woman in my law firm at the time. It was like a
Ooh.
12-man law firm. We're talking my kids are 24 and 26. And I had a live in nanny with the first one, which was really nice, but lots of mom guilt there. Lots of mom guilt leaving the baby all day, but the hours that I was working, I could not drop him off somewhere and I couldn't take a day off if he was sick unless something. And my husband was a stockbroker at the time trying to build, we're young, I'm 30 and whatever. So we had a live-in nanny, which was wonderful. But then when I had the second baby, right the first day of my back to work, we caught the nanny in this crazy lie that had nothing to do with our children, but it
Okay.
had to do with her own family. And I was postpartum hormonal, and my husband and I freaked out that we had this lady in our house, and she told a terrible lie. And we're like, if you lie about one thing, you lie about other things. So I quit. So I went into my boss and I'm like, I got to stay home longer. And he's like, you can stay home as long as you want, but we're not paying you anymore, which fair enough. So I took a sabbatical and I figured, okay, we'll figure it out. Um, and maybe I'll stay home for a couple of years. And then when they're in school or whatever, it wasn't the time in the world where you could do anything Zoom, or that wasn't even a thing. You couldn't work part-time. My firm was, there was no at home work, there was no part-time work. It was 60 hours or nothing. And so I started selling my lawyer maternity clothes on eBay. I mean, I'm sure people have heard the story. So I started selling my maternity lawyer clothes, which in 2000, when I started, eBay was brand new and you couldn't buy any maternity clothes online. And so I had these really nice suits. It was still very formal back then. There was no casual Friday. I had to wear a suit whether I was in court or not. So I
Mhm.
started selling these suits that I had paid a lot of money for, and they sold for like almost as much as I paid for them. And I was like, okay, what else is in the house?
Yeah,
And I
right.
started selling, like, what else can we
Yeah.
sell? And so I sold stuff, and then um I told my friends, and I had all these new mom friends, which was a great benefit of being a stay-at-home mother, even though it was not planned. And I said, "Oh, I sold this Gucci bag," and everything was auction back then. I mean, eBay was totally unrecognizable to what it is now. There was desktop only. You ran auctions for 7 days. No buy it now. One photo because we didn't have digital cameras.
One photo.
So you would scan a photo. Like, this is like, I'm sounding like a dinosaur. Anyway, you take the photos and you'd scan them in. People didn't have photos and sold stuff. Everything sold, though. Everything sold, and everything, you'd start an auction at $1 and it would sell for what it's worth. So it was Monday morning, Sunday night, the auctions would end. And I sold like this Gucci bag that I had from maybe college, because I always liked designer stuff. And it sold for like $300. And I told my friends, and they're like, hold the phone. I've got that stuff too, because there was no real or anything like that. So it was great to just, they're like, I have a closet full of this stuff. It was too good to give away, but they were never going to wear. So I started a consignment business. I had never been a thrifter. I had never bought used items before. I had certainly never sold stuff on the internet or used items. And so I started a consignment business knowing nothing. And here we are 24 years later. Never had to go back to work. Um, I do have a consulting practice that I started in 20, like maybe 10 years ago. I felt like my legal brain was getting a little mushy, so I did start doing a little consignment consulting on the side, medical
Mhm.
malpractice consulting. But I've been reselling for since then, and I've dialed it down at times. I've dialed it up at times. But the great thing, and the reason I love talking to resellers, and the reason I want to help resellers, and I like just like you, I like educating resellers, I like helping resellers, I like motivating resellers, is it allowed me to be a full-time, all in, front of the carpool, PTA, book fair mom, and still brought in really nice money. And my kids, when they were little, didn't think I worked. I worked around their schedule.
Right.
And I really thought when they got bigger, I'd be able to go back to work full time. Like, that was always the plan. But then I realized little babies need somebody, but they don't, I mean, they need their mom, but they need somebody to just feed them and change them and play with them, right?
Right.
Bigger kids, you need to, like, the best advice was, when you're driving your kids around with their friends in the car, you're the chauffeur, don't say a word and just listen. Because
Ooh,
just listen, because you can learn a lot about what's going on in the kids world and in your community by just
smart.
keeping the ear open. So the fact that I was the full-time mom was really good for my family.
That's awesome.
So
That's
that's why I love reselling, because it really did I don't know what my life would have looked like if that nanny was still around.
Right.
You know, I don't know. But I would have better stuff probably.
Right.
I would have a lot more money, but I think it was really good for my family for me to be paying attention all the time.
Totally. I feel I relate to this tremendously. As you know, and maybe other people, I just my baby, well, she's about to be a year actually in like a week.
Right.
And
Oh,
it has been the absolute best to be able to stay home. And like I never thought I'd be a stay-at-home mom. That was never the plan. But goodness, it's been great.
right. Well, like my mom and both my parents were like, you could be whatever you want to be. Like that was my household. My mom didn't go to college or didn't finish college, and she ended up working like for my dad. But she was always like, "Go get your own career, honey. Go make your own money. You know, you could get people to clean your house and take care of your babies. Like, go to the world."
Right,
And
right.
so my generation, especially, I think women my age, we were like, we don't want a man to take care, which is
Mhm.
great, which is wonderful, but the staying at home with your kids is definitely a privilege. And
Mhm.
honestly, when they're bigger, middle school, be around for them.
Right.
And, you know, and if you can. And also, I think one of the things that, and I see a lot of resellers like, hey, I was at the soccer game and I was able to list 30 things. And I'm like, at the soccer game, besides the fact that your kid knows when you're not paying attention, like there's like a radar that goes off, like my mom's looking at, but befriend the other moms in your community, in your school. And even if you don't love them, even if they're not going to be your ride or die, even if you're like, ugh, still become friends with them because they know everything you're going to need to know. Like, go to mommy and me, like, learn
Mhm.
because they're going to tell you what schools, what teachers. I mean, you're a teacher, you know what teachers to avoid, what
Mhm.
tutors, what after school programs when they start getting them into college, what SAT tutor, what school should they apply to, all of that. They
Right.
know everything. They know what doctor, what dentist, what camp, what shoes, whatever, you know.
Right. Yeah. No,
And so it's
that's a really
good.
good point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it definitely is challenging, right? Just being a stay-at-home mom, and that is your full-time job, unpaid. And then we have
It's hard.
right, and then we do want to earn money and help support our family financially, but to not have that get in the way of quality time with your kids. And it may not feel like quality time because you're on the sidelines, but like you said, kids always know. It is definitely a balance, but I'm excited now that I have you. I can
You
take
could
care
call
of
me. Well, when my kids were really little, I mean, it's very hard. I don't have to tell you. And as your daughter's even getting bigger, like when they're little and you can stick them in the little bouncy seat next to you and type a little, and that's
Mhm.
once they start running around, you have to watch them 24/7. And so it's very hard. I mean, give yourself grace. I always tell them anytime I post about that on my Instagram, like, give yourself some grace. It's really hard to grow or run a business when you're full-time mom. And I give tips like, if you can find a little help, do a baby switch with your friend, get your partner to take the kid on Saturday to the zoo. You have to carve out time to work.
Mhm.
And it's sometimes a sacrifice, like you put her to bed, maybe you have to work for a couple of hours, and that sucks because the last thing you want to do after taking care of a kid all day is to work.
Right. Yeah. Let me
But
do
it can
more
be
things.
done. I'm proof. I was able to grow a business with two kids, and at the time that I quit my job, we went from two incomes to one, and it was unplanned, and my husband was a stockbroker, so he like went into overdrive. Like,
Mm.
stockbrokers can make more money if they work more, so he was out always working even more to try to get in more clients, more money. And so I was really on my own, it was like a lot. And so at one point I did find my business allowed me to get a babysitter for 3 hours a day, and she cleaned if we weren't home. So it was like a housekeeper slash babysitter. And I found her because um I think I can't remember. I think it was my a couple of my family members that live nearby were using her to clean their house in the morning. So I think they had her every morning between the two or three of them. And then in the afternoons, she was free. So from like 2 to 5 every day. She would come, and it wasn't cheap, but my business could afford it. And that gave me 3 hours a day to close the door and put on earplugs and be like, mommy's going to work. And she would like distract them. They would go outside, whatever, or meet with consignment clients, go thrifting, go to the post office,
Mhm.
go get my hair cut, whatever I needed to do. And it really helped me grow my business. So sometimes that's like a good goal to like build up your business enough that you can get a little help.
And that is, you are like, I know this is an interview for everyone, but I am getting so much from this right
Well, I'm on the other end of it. Like, so you're where I was when I started, and
now.
now my
Right.
kids are 24 and 26, and they are, I mean, they're very nice human beings. I think, I hope. They both have jobs. They're both, one's just became a lawyer last year
Oh,
in he took
congrats.
the bar in the summer. So he's a new lawyer. The other one's getting an MBA, so he's almost done with school and he has a job. So I'm like the other side. So I've
Right.
been through whatever you're going to you could call me for the next 20 years. Like I know. And it's not always easy. There's always going to be challenges in your personal life.
Mhm.
Um
Mhm.
and there's going to be when my kids were little, there were definitely days, weeks and months where not a lot of work got done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
And
when they got sick,
oh, yeah.
or it seems like the preschool that they went to had a holiday every other day. Like I feel like we paid for a month and we got 2 weeks. Like so they were
Oh,
always they were either sick or out of school, and so
wow.
give yourself grace, I think is probably the best message because your number one job is to take care of your child, obviously.
Right. And it does sometimes because, right, sometimes we want to focus on reselling, but it's, like you said, and I think maybe a few weeks ago, you had an Instagram post about that. Like, yeah, as moms, as much as you want to work on your business, like make sure, like number one, your baby and then your business. And that was a really good, like that day I was like, oh, but I need to do this. And I was like, no, no, I don't. I don't need to do that. I need to take care of her and then I'll do that stuff later.
Right.
Um,
It's hard. And I remember getting frustrated sometimes, like, when they were big enough, like where they could play, my kids are 2 years apart, where they could play with each other. And it would be like they could play with each other if I was sitting there reading a magazine all day. And the second I would try to jump on the computer, and at one point I had my computer, because this is like before phone, like my computer was like in the playroom. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put the computer in the playroom. And I remember being so frustrated that I couldn't get anything done because every 5 minutes, mom, 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 and
yeah.
you have to give yourself grace because they're going to get big. They still will need you, but in a totally different way when they get older.
No, that's a really good point. And yeah, I'm gonna put you on speed dial.
I'll give you my number.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's such when you own your own business like this and the
Mhm.
hours are flexible, that's one of the really great things that you can make your schedule around that. And I would have never had that if I would have stayed in my law practice. Even if I opened my own practice, there's deadlines
Mm,
and
mhm.
things like that. And I mean, I know you were a teacher, like it's when you have your own business, that's one of the great things is that there's flexibility.
Yes. It's been such a gift.
Yeah, right.
It is.
It
Oh,
still is.
yes. So, right, and this is really good. So, a lot of background info. So, you started with your own, and I love that maternity lawyer because that is such a niche title, right? Like, but yeah, I could totally, like, if you're a lawyer and you're pregnant, you still need to look like a lawyer. You know, there's
Well,
no,
back then, especially because maternity clothes in 1998 and 2000 were awful, like big, tenty, flowery dresses and, baby doll dresses. And you're like, I'm trying to argue, I can't. It's bad enough, when you got the big belly and you're like, I
right.
remember I was arguing an appeal. So I went to the appeals court, which is like major, right? And the baby's like kicking and it was like it was so hard, so yes, maternity lawyer clothes was a whole thing. Maybe I should have opened a maternity lawyer clothes website back then. I probably would have
Yeah. I
been
mean,
very famous.
that is, oh man, that's now I have like real ideas in my head, like so, so
Yeah.
many. That's awesome. So yeah, so you started with yeah, lawyer maternity clothes, and then you said you talked to your friends. So when like, as it has been quite a few years, when do you think your business like went to that next level? And was there anything that you did specifically to really bring it to the next level, or was it just kind of like a natural progression?
I think it was a natural progression. I'm not a business minded person. Now, my husband went to business school. He's a sales guy. He's very business, but he's not involved in my business. But he's sort of like one of my, you know, he's like my advisor.
Mhm.
But I was an English major. I'm a more creative. I went to law school. Like, so I don't. Business was like I had to learn, and I learned School of Hard Knocks. There wasn't any YouTube. There wasn't any Instagram. So I totally had to learn. But as soon as I realized that this could keep me at home with the kids, I started
Mhm.
treating it like a business. And I still treat it like a business. And even though I do a lot of other things, you know, my Instagram or my social media or my Patreon or what, all those things, my main thing every day is what am I going to do to grow my business? Like I'm always focusing on my business day to day, and I always treat it like a business. And sometimes that's wonderful, sometimes that's awful. Um, but I think that's maybe one of the things that resellers sometimes have a problem with because a lot of us fell into it. I don't think anyone I know, maybe kids now, but no one grew up like, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be an eBay seller. Like so. I think that because a lot of people fall into it by accident, like me, like, oh, how
Totally.
cool is this? I had this crap in my closet and I just turned it into $500, or I went to a flea market and I picked up this bowl and it's worth $100. And so it's fun. It's a fun business, but especially the sourcing part is fun, but there's parts of it that are not fun, and there's parts of it that are definitely feel like work. I still hate taking photographs for some reason. It's still my least exciting task. And then once I do it every single time, I'm like, that wasn't so bad. I
Right.
mean, still after 20, I'm like, it took you a half hour and you photographed that whole pile. What were you waiting for, girl?
Right.
And I hate shipping, and I'm always trying to like turn it around, like, look at all this work you have to do because you sold all this stuff, but it's still, so I think a lot of resellers have problems growing or have problems like
Mhm.
maintaining or burning out because they think of it as a fun business, and it is a fun business and I still love it, but it's still a job and it's still work. And sometimes you have really crappy days, and or you're having a crappy time, your sales are slow, or your buyers, you're getting returns or you're getting bad buyers or things like that. And it's a job, it's a business. And I know a lot of people who are very, very successful in other businesses, and no one's like, I love my job every day, you
Right,
know.
right.
So you have to kind of think of it that way.
That's a really, really good point because I've definitely noticed that in the reseller community. Like first, there are what I call like hobby resellers where
Mhm.
you literally just do it for fun. The money doesn't matter, and that's fantastic. Like do your thing. But right, and I think it's important too to differentiate because yeah, sometimes I think hobby resellers might be like, oh wow, all this advice and stuff. Like hobby resellers, you guys do your thing. But if you really want to make money, you do have to treat it like a business. And
Yes.
it's a difficult transition almost because we do fall into it from the fun side. Like, oh my
Right.
goodness, I got this when I was with a friend and now I have more money. Let me do this
I
more.
know it's great. Like you can shop and buy yourself stuff and buy stuff that's going to make money. It's super fun.
Right, exactly. You're like, I get to shop for myself, for others, for my
Right.
home.
Right.
Oh my God, I'm a professional shopper. And then
I
there's
know,
all the
right?
fun stuff.
Right. And so, I think like my husband's company is always like, oh, because he works for like a major corporation. And so they're always like, what's your why? What's your why? And your why. and my why might be different. Somebody's why might be like, I just want better shoes, or I want to travel to better places. And other people's why might be like, if I don't make enough money this month, I'm going to lose my car, or I'm going to not be able to feed myself or my family. But that doesn't mean the person who's like, oh, I'm just, you still have to have the discipline, and you still have to, the why doesn't really matter. It's what are you going to do today, and how are you going to be disciplined, and how are you going to not be emotional,
Mm,
and
I love
what
that.
am
The
I going to do
why
today to
does
grow? What
matter.
am I going to do to make, and it's hard because when you work by yourself, it's hard because you don't have a boss.
Right.
It's great you don't have a
Yes.
boss, but it's sometimes not great when you don't have a boss. Your boss, if you work in an office or in wherever, and your boss comes in and says, "Do this today," or "You're doing a great job," or "You're doing a bad job. You need to change this,"
Mhm.
or "Take the day off. We have the office is closed tomorrow." That's none of that is going on when you're have a reselling business. So you have to really govern yourself. And when you work by yourself, sometimes that's hard.
I think that definitely was probably my biggest um issue for me going from being a teacher to full-time reseller, and that I didn't realize how much I really did rely on the structure of, or especially during COVID when all the societal, rules and
Right.
everything went away, and I really, like, I didn't wear a bra, I
Right.
up until like 5 minutes before I had to, open my computer for class. And like I completely became like a degenerate because like there were just no structures around me. And I always thought like, oh, I'm such a disciplined person. And I am when that structure is provided for me. So I really had to, with reselling and just my life, like figure out, all right, Diana, like no one's going to tell you what to do right now, but like maybe you should put on a bra.
Maybe.
Let's take those
Maybe
little
not.
baby steps. Like, and it's, yeah, it's definitely hard being your boss and knowing when should I rest and when do I push myself. Ooh, those are.
Right. And I think a lot of resellers burn out too because they don't, like, I have a hard stop usually at 5 o'clock. So I don't work full time reselling. And I usually sit at my desk in the afternoons. I do all everything I can in the mornings, from sourcing to working out to doctor's appointments, whatever. I try to make all my appointments in the morning and then sit down like after lunch at my computer, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then I really try to do a hard stop now at 5 o'clock
Mm,
because I've found that that keeps me not burning out. And so burnout is so bad in the reselling world because no one tells you, and the pile's always there. And so I just picked up a literal carload full of stuff from a client. And um it's exciting, but now I'm like overwhelmed by the amount of stuff because I hate it sitting there. And so the client understands that it's going to be a long time before all of it's listed. But I want to get it sorted and listed as quickly as possible. But I know that if I just go, oh, I'm just for the next 5 days, don't talk to me. I'm that the next week I'm going to be like, oh, I need to take to my bed. So trying to find a schedule. So Sunday, I look at my calendar and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing this day, this day, this day, and try to kind of keep it so I'm not working all the time. Because if you
mhm.
work for yourself, you can work all the time and then you'll burn out. I've seen so many people burn out.
Yeah, that's a good. And actually, just recently, I was thinking of like reseller friends on Instagram who I made when I first started. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I wonder what happened to that person. And I don't know, it might be something else, but most likely, probably burnout. And and it's
Yeah.
it just
Um,
on Instagram we don't get to like if someone's burnt out, they're not going to come on usually and be like, I'm burnt out. Like,
I know. I've been in the reselling Instagram community for I think since 2016, and I wish I like would have kept track of the people because I'm like, what happened to this one and what happened to this one? And I've actually met some of them, but I don't even know what their real names are. I know their Instagram names and whatever, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened to them. And they just, and I think a lot of it is that they sourcing is the key to everything. And so they were selling stuff where they had to work so much. They were
mm,
following the I'm going to go to the outlet and buy 100 pounds a week and list it. And right now, the market is harder than ever. My business is better than ever, but the stuff I'm selling is not meh. Before you could sell a lot of meh, boring stuff. Now you have to be selling stuff that people who have money are going to buy. And so they were buying stuff that wasn't great. They were doing all that work. They weren't making any money. And they were just like, this is not, I made $100 last week, not worth it. And so if you focus on buying the right things, and that's the hardest part, that's the hardest part. And there's no like, here's a list, go buy this stuff. But if you educate yourself and you learn what buyers are actually want to buy and what they are buying, and you pay attention to that, and you sort of tune out all the other stuff going on in the reselling community, that's what leads to longevity. And that's the sellers that I've seen last and that do well and that are okay.
Okay.
It's the ones that were like, oh, I got a palette of I don't know what, and I'm going to list it all. And they're spending so much time and energy listing it, and it doesn't end well a lot of times.
Yeah, that's a really good and actually a great transition into the next question. Um, what this is kind of a it can be a touchy question, but I think it's important to ask. What do you think resellers should stop doing, either in their business or in the community, on social media? Very like open here. What is something that would be better if we just didn't do that anymore?
Well, I mean, I love the reselling community and I love that you can run your account or in your business however you want and you can post whatever you want. And there's a mute button, there's an unfollow button, there's a block button. I don't ever really block people, but I certainly mute people sometimes. Like if somebody's making you feel bad, if they're posting their package pile every week and you feel bad, you should just keep scrolling by, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, I don't think if you want whatever you want to do on your reselling account, do it. You want to show where, I mean, I saw somebody on TikTok like, these are my top 3 thrift stores that I shop in, and this one's on Main Street, and this one's on this one. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, you are just shooting yourself in the foot because there's going to be at least 5, 10 people now that are going to go to your honey hole and get there before you, right? Dumb, dumb, dumb. But I mean,
oh, good
go, make
engagement.
people do their own work. But I think that one of the things that is really confusing to resellers and you may like get thumbs down on this video for this. Do they still do thumbs down on? But I
Oh
think that
yeah.
haul videos are really really bad to watch. So, and I don't watch them anymore. And I did start watching them years and years ago. I started watching haul videos and I started to second guess my own knowledge. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, she's picking up that. I don't pick that up. Oh, maybe I should pick it up. And I was buying, and haul videos mean nothing. Haul
Mm,
videos are really fun to watch. They're really easy to make and they have their wishes and dreams. And by the way, some of the people make more money on the haul video than they do on the
uh-huh.
haul,
Uh-huh.
which good for them.
Yeah.
Hey, good for them. I'm all
Yep.
for however you can make money. But they're the same people that 6 months later, they're like 5 for 20 in my Poshmark closet,
Yep.
and so,
Mhm.
and haul videos also do something very bad. They give you FOMO. So you have a pile of stuff that you should be listing. And you say to yourself, because you're your own boss, you're like, man,
Mhm.
she found Gucci. Like, I
Right?
gotta go. The thrifts are calling me. And guess what? There's always going to be stuff at the thrift store. I've been doing this for a long time. I've
Mhm.
never pulled up to a thrift store and then go, sorry, Julie, we're not open today because we sold everything.
Right.
So there's always going to be more stuff. You're
Mhm.
always going to find the good stuff. Now, sometimes opportunity knocks and you should answer like, this person today, I don't really need inventory, but she was like, this is a person that has a 10-bedroom house and big shoppers. And every time I go, I get really good stuff. And she was like, can you come? And I was like, I can come.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
coming.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
if I watched your haul video tomorrow morning And I was like, oh, you know what? I really want to go thrifting. I think there's going to be something good there. That would be stupid because now I have a whole carload of stuff I need to list before I go to the thrift store. So, haul videos, I think if you stop paying attention to what sellers are buying and pay attention to what sellers are selling or what buyers are buying.
Wow, that is,
But I know people love haul videos. They love showing
yeah.
them. And, they're very compelling to watch because they're very exciting. But if you're not a real pro sourcer, you're
Mhm.
not really good at buying it, I would recommend s- stop watching that.
I agree 1,000,000%. I they and like you said, they create FOMO. That's my biggest issue.
Yeah.
They absolutely, because you think, oh my gosh, she found red bottoms today. Oh, maybe I'll find them today. Like, no, you're not gonna, trust me. Like,
Well, I'm not a bins shopper. So
Mhm.
I've gone to the bins maybe 4 or 5 times in my lifetime. I haven't been since COVID. The bins in Miami are rough, rough. And it's just not my thing. I get why people go, not my thing. But even like somebody was showing their bins all the other day. I'm like, maybe I got to go to the bin. Like, look what you found. And I'm like, no, no, you do not. No, you do not. So I know better. But
It
even
absolutely.
I sometimes, if like my people that I'm friends with,
Mhm.
and then I'm seeing their stories and I start watching, I'm like, I gotta stop watching this. I
Yeah. And like you said, there's the mute button, there's the unfollow button.
gotta just
Like,
keep
take
going.
me down. Yeah. No, I think maybe it was probably during COVID. And everyone was getting stuff from, yeah, their friends, their family online, wherever. And I think I bought a mystery box. I don't even remember from where. And I remember I got it and said, like, well, this was stupid. Like, why I did this just because someone else did. And I didn't want to be left out. I wanted to experience it, whatever. And I think I probably donated half of it.
Yep.
Like it totally messes with your head, I think.
Well, I think that I actually sometimes once in a while, like for sourcing school or something, I'll order a box from a company that's a reselling box and open it, but not as a haul, but as a like public service because they're always horrible. they're,
Right. And
they're
like,
always not worth it.
right, a
You're
real
better
box.
off going on eBay and buying individual items, honestly. Or I
Mhm.
buy a lot of stuff on ThreadUp. If you work the coupons and you look for certain things, I buy some really good flips just from ThreadUp. So
Mhm.
every company that seems to market to resellers, I I challenge you to tell me a good one. They're all scammy and they like one of them years ago. I always tell the story. One of them that's not in business anymore sent me, they said, we want to work with you, we're going to send you, would you like to buy it? And I bought the box, but they knew it was me. And the box was like $100 and it had like 10 $300 handbags in it, new with tags from Bloomingdale's. Like it was like the best box ever, right?
Right.
And they're like, hey, the next day they're like, hey, would you like to work with us, and we'll give you an affiliate code and whatever. And I was like, I'll think about it. And then I ordered a box in my husband's name, and it literally looked like somebody took a shovel at the bins, at the bottom of the bins after everyone had pulled everything. I mean, it was so gross and I was like, shame
Wow.
on you. So be careful when you are working with any company that markets inventory to resellers. I wish there was a good one, but I don't think there is.
Yeah. And I have so many things to say. I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. Yeah. Absolutely. Because a lot of times, right, people say, oh, well, this person got a good box, but it's because there is a deal behind the scenes,
Yeah.
right? Or it's just, it might not. And a lot of times I know like it's not officially paid. So therefore, like, oh, no, it's not sponsored, but yeah, like there's motivation behind it. And yeah, you're not going to get the same box as the person with the code.
No. And I mean, if you want to source online, and you source online, don't you?
Mhm.
Right. So you have to do your own work. That's your secret sauce. And where you get your inventory from is your secret sauce of your business. And if people are telling you where, they're probably have a, so um, for I think 6 years, somewhere in this my reselling journey, I did have three retail stores that were not reselling related. I got into this business. I sort of get into businesses accidentally. So when my kids were getting ready to go to elementary school, one of my friends who had these accessory kiosks all over the country wanted to open up one in my neighborhood in the mall, and it's an amazing mall, and I had an inn at the mall. I knew the owner of the mall, and they were like, "Will you open one?" And I thought, "Oh, this is going to be a great mom business. Like, I'll just go to the mall and in the morning and I'll pick up the money." And, like I thought this was like great. And then it turned into a monster. And I ended up having three of them, two
Oh my
in malls
gosh.
and one in the Miami airport. My husband quit his job to run them with me. And we had employees, and it was a very fun business. But one of the things, the deal with the people who open, had the franchise, was one of the things I had to do was I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement not to tell anybody, including my mother, my employees, my kids, where the inventory was coming from, because that was a secret sauce of their business. And I had to, when I would bring the inventory to the stores for the employees to put it out, I had to cut the name off the boxes. I had to have the inventory delivered to my home so that I could
Mm-hmm.
bring it to the stores, because that was their secret sauce. And
Mm-hmm.
so, where you get your inventory from, now, you could have followed me around at the Vegas jewelry show, or you could have followed me up to New York City every month. I mean, it wouldn't have been that hard. It wasn't like super secret FBI, but you
Right.
would have had to do the work, right? If you wanted to replicate my business. The same. So
Mm,
you might be able to Google thrift stores in Fort Lauderdale and kind of figure out where I'm going, but I'm not telling you exactly where I'm going, because there's some places I never see resellers at, and I get good stuff.
right. Like, let's keep it that way.
Well, I mean, that's the secret sauce. So if you have a good wholesale, like I love sharing, I love helping, but there's some things like I'm not giving you a list of the consignment clients I have, so
Right.
this is the same with your wholesale or your wherever you're getting stuff from.
Mhm.
You don't have to blab everything. We love to blab in the reselling community. You don't have to share everything.
Absolutely. And this is maybe years ago when I first started, and I, was sharing everything that I learned and figured out. I was putting it all out there. And then I saw a post that basically said, yeah, like, you know what? You're giving away your business secrets. It's like, oh, am I? So yeah, definitely, like you said, sourcing is number one. So like, we don't want to.
Right. And I mean, I remember there being a lot of controversy about that at one point, because one reseller who had a big following, and I think she's only doing auctions now, but she had a big following. And she was like, there's an abundance mentality and we should share everything. And if you're gatekeeping, and I'm like, okay, we're business people and you
Right.
have to think like a business. And so that doesn't mean not sharing. I answer every DM. I'm sure you do too. Like, I help people all day, every day. But there's a fine line. So when I had my store in the mall, there were other jewelry and accessory stores. I was very friendly with those owners. We'd go have a drink. But we didn't sit and say, "Hey, how many of those necklaces?" Like,
Right.
"Hey, what's your best seller? Hey, who's your best employee?" Like,
Right.
who
Hmm.
do you trust the most? Because they'd offer them $1 more in salary and they'd be out the door, right? So
Exactly.
it's okay to think like a business person. You can help, you can have an abundance mentality, you can help people, but you don't have to share every single thing.
That's a really good point. And like you said, yeah, you absolutely, I mean, your whole page is helping resellers. But yeah, you're not like, well, here's the number for my consignment.
Yeah, right. I'm not
Look at
telling,
the
I'm not
text.
giving you the lady's name I just went to.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
But
that's
that's
a really
okay.
good. Right. And you're because we are businesses. Like it would be really irresponsible if I was like, hey everyone, I get my purses here. Like, oh my
Right.
God, why?
And trust me, for every person is watching, there's a lot more people that aren't commenting, that are still paying attention, that would be very happy to call your supplier and offer them $1 more a pallet or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Yeah.
Yep, you're SOL.
Yeah.
Yes. And now on the flip side of that, what I kind of, again, transitioning perfectly into this, what would you like to see more of in the reselling community, or what do you think resellers need to do more of in their businesses? Either
I mean, the I think as long as everyone's being nice, I don't understand like internet troll. Like I don't understand that at all. Like if you don't like me, don't follow me. If you don't like my post, why are you having an
that's
argument with me?
simple.
People love to argue. And I don't I that I don't get. You know, I don't know. I posted a funny meme the other day and I didn't even think it was political. And one of my followers was like, "Do I need to unfollow you?" Because I think that was, against my political beliefs. And I was like, I never ever post anything political.
Oh my
If
God.
you and I go have a martini after this, we can talk politics till the cows come home. But I don't ever, and I see why people do. And I think that's fine. And I don't ever unfollow anyone unless they're racist or bigoted or whatever, like
Yeah.
there's a fine line. But if you're talking about who you're voting for, what you're voting for, what you believe in, I don't care. But I think I don't like the hate. And I mean, what should resellers be doing more of? One of the things I've been seeing a lot of is people are trying to do everything. And so I do a lot of things, but I became a good reseller and then I started my social media and then I started my Patreon. So
Mhm.
I didn't say, okay, I'm going to do all of this. And so I've seen people, I saw somebody complaining that they were trying to save money for something and she was giving all her numbers and she was like, I made $200 on Poshmark last month and I made $100 on eBay and I made no money on TikTok and I made $1 on YouTube. And I was like, and she was all of her, and I made no money in the TikTok shop. And I was like, why don't you just focus on eBay?
Right,
Like
right.
focus on
Yeah.
one or two things, focus on eBay and Poshmark and you can make, if you're trying to really make money, the best place to do it is eBay and Poshmark. Now, if you grow into having, I know a lot of people make a lot of money on YouTube.
Mhm.
There's people killing it on TikTok, but that's a longer term goal.
Yes.
In general, unless you go viral for something, that's a harder thing to build. It's really hard now to even grow your Instagram account. My Instagram account barely grows and I post every day, and for a while it was growing really well and now and I don't even pay attention to it now. My TikTok account is growing by maybe 100 followers a week. So, if you want to grow, TikTok is probably the place,
Mm.
but I think I made $30 on TikTok and I don't do the TikTok shop. I just post TikTok videos and get paid. It's not a good money making thing for me.
Right.
You could go to the thrift store today or you could go in your closet and you could probably make a couple $100 this week.
Mm.
So, if you focus on the task at hand, I think maybe resellers are they're like trying to cast such a wide net and
Yes.
really focus on reselling is not dead. Reselling is actually hotter than ever. Used clothes are hotter than ever. People that I know that live in really nice houses and drive really nice cars all of a sudden are like, hey, I bought something on eBay. And I'm like, oh, welcome to my world.
Right.
I've known you for 24 years. Like they're like, I bought a used
Did you
vintage
know?
shirt, and oh, I'm looking, do you have any vintage? And I'm like, oh, where have you been?
Right.
So um you could still make a lot of money. You can make, the sky's the limit on eBay and Poshmark. I think so. If you are struggling and you're trying to do everything, focus on reselling, resellers.
That's really good advice. I could have used that a few months ago.
No, but I mean, you have a reselling business and you have a good social media, and your social media is amazing. And I love your videos, and they're funny and they're smart and they're helpful. And that's great. And I think people who want to do that consistently just post on a consistent basis and your people will find you whatever your content is. Um but if you're like, I know people that have been selling on eBay. There's somebody I think that has 45 or 50 eBay sales and they're giving eBay advice and I'm like, who's
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, yeah,
Time
good for
out.
you.
Yeah.
So focus on one thing and then become an expert in it. And then you can maybe jump into other things. So resellers focus on reselling first.
That is such a good point because,
And
right.
there's not a lot of hate in reselling. No one's leaving you nasty comments in general on your reselling sites, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's why I love that. Even though I know my account is public, I feel like it's private because it's in our reselling community and I'm like in a safe little corner of their internet where outsiders can't get to me. But I think that's really important to just to hear because especially when you first become a reseller and you see everyone doing all these amazing things and you want to, you're like, oh, I could do YouTube, I could do this, oh my gosh, I could do live shows, I could, and it's overwhelming, like all of the streams of income and streams of revenue and all that stuff. But like you said, if you can't split yourself up immediately, like that's, you don't know what you're doing, right? Like get a few more eBay sales before you like,
Well, I mean,
give
I
up.
always say too, you don't need to be selling on 5 platforms. Learn one and
Yes.
be good at it. And then add another one and maybe a third one. But you don't need to sell on 50 different platforms. And if you want to live sell, but know that you're not going to go on today and become a gangbuster. The people that are doing it really well are on there all the time and they built up a following and they know how to do it and they run their auctions fast and they have
Mhm.
good product. And um I've seen a lot of people like, oh, I tried live selling, I did 2 shows, I'm done. And I'm like, well, just like YouTube, if you want to grow on YouTube, if you want to grow on Instagram, you've got to post. You've got to do a lot of live shows. You've got to do a lot of YouTube videos. You've got to do a lot of Instagram posts. And so, and find your groove. So if you want to be a funny Instagram poster, or you want to give helpful hints, or you want to complain, whatever your niche is, find it and do it. But I do think that if you just focus on reselling, that I know a lot of people who have no social media presence that make lots of money on eBay. I met them at, eBay used to have these live conventions. I wish they would go live again. And I met people and I thought I knew every reseller at that point because I'd been on reseller media, social media. And I met all these people and I'm like, are you on Instagram? No, no. And I'm like, what do you sell? I sell tires. I sold $4 million of tires last year. And I'm like, whoa, like, oh, I don't know about that.
Right,
I
right.
sell coins or I sell this. And I'm like, oh, you don't need social media to sell on eBay or Poshmark.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is, I think, such an important point that we really forget about. It's when we're on social media, right? We're there, we're in it, and it's easy to forget. But I try to remember my husband, for example, he's a full-time reseller, and I don't know, his account's maybe 1,000, 2,000 followers. I have no idea.
Right.
His business is probably double the size of mine.
Right.
And he just, it's not his thing to like make videos and share and be silly. Like he just wants to resell.
Right.
Thank God too, because someone has to.
Right. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, well, I don't really market what I'm selling to resellers because I think my followers are all thrifters and they don't want to pay what I want to get for my items.
Right.
And so once in a while I'll post something, but you know, I don't want to sell it for $10. I want to sell it for $50. And so know your audience too.
Oh
And
yes.
I have a second account and I was like, oh, that's going to be my account that I send my buyers to. And I'm going to put cards in and you have to follow the money and what's actually, and so that isn't my main objective right now. And I always feel like strapped for time and I don't want to be working all the time. So we were talking about this. I have a Zoom call on Mondays, a reselling Zoom call. And we were talking about that and they're like, oh, do you have your own website? And I'm like, no, but I probably should. I probably should have a place that I could put a card in every order and say, hey, next time just come to julie.com or casachic.com or
Yeah.
whatever and buy it directly from me. And let's eliminate eBay from the middle. But just, I don't have the bandwidth right now to do it. And so that's okay because I can go list my 5 things on eBay today and some stuff will sell overnight and I'll make money and I'm don't have to be doing everything all that. You don't have to do everything. I think that's a really good message.
That is so important in reselling, and I think just for women in general, like we don't have to do all the things. And I know we feel like we do for many reasons, but we don't.
We always do. That doesn't go away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and it's can also, and I think it's a good reminder too. Like Julie's been reselling for 20, 24 years, right?
Mhm.
Like, so, you're not gonna like start your business and be Julie. Like, like you have to grow and be patient, which is really hard. But
It's hard to be patient, but I think the the key is to focus on what you are buying to resell and really become an expert in a category or two categories. And a category isn't women's clothes.
right,
Like
yeah, thank you.
a category is women's bathing suits.
Mhm.
A category is women's handbags. Whatever you can find for good prices in your area. So if I wanted to sell ski clothes, that would be hard because I live in South Florida and there's not a lot of ski clothes in my stores. There's a lot of sandals. There's always sandals. There's always bathing suits. There's always little dresses. And by the way, I talked about this, I think yesterday. That stuff sells year round. You don't have
Yes,
to be like, oh, it's December. I'm not listening. I sell more bathing suits in January than I do in July.
and
And
some for more.
so, yeah, and they sell for more money in January than they do in July because you can, here you can. Here they always have bathing suits in Target and they always have bathing suits in Macy's or whatever, but maybe not in places where it's freezing.
Yep.
So, if I wanted to be a ski clothing, if that was my passion, winter clothes, then I would have to find other places to source. But whatever's, if you live in an area where there's a lot of golf clothes, become an expert in golf shirts and then once you feel like you could go into that aisle and beat me or beat you or beat whoever and find yes, no, yes, no, yes, no in every piece of clothing, then learn another category. And so if you keep educating yourself, it's not that hard to make really good money. And so there's different ways to educate yourself, but it's easier than ever. Google Images is
Oh my gosh.
a
Like
game
that's
changer, right?
holy mackerel. It's
eBay now has eBay product research where you can look for the past 3 years on your phone. I usually for fashion look at the past year because fashion's so fickle. But like I was showing something, I was doing my sourcing school lesson today and I sold like a tweed blazer and I looked at the comps for the past 3 months and they weren't that great. But then I looked at the comps for the past year and they were better because who's buying used blazers in July? So May, June, July, not so many.
right.
Uh, October through January, probably more. So it's easier than ever to look up stuff, to really learn. Um, you know, and if you educate yourself and you learn what to buy, it's not that hard. I mean, it's not easy. And I think the sourcing is harder, probably the hardest part, finding where to source,
Right.
deciding what to spend your money on.
Yes.
That's what consignment is so good too. Like if you tell people what you do, I was getting my hair colored last month and I was chatting with the lady next to me. We both like look like crazy people with the foil in our hair and everything. And I was talking to her and I told her what I did. And she used to own a consignment store and she closed it. And she's like, oh, you need to come to my house. And so she's an artist now. She's a really cool lady. And she went in another direction. She's like, oh, you know what? I have a whole bathtub full of clothes. And I'm like, I gotta come. Like,
Yeah.
so tell people what you do. They may give you free stuff. My
Yeah.
mom, who was a reseller up until recently, she got a job during the pandemic, my 83-year-old mom. But she was a eBay reseller, really like a lightweight eBay seller, but she's really nice. She's like the type of person that like brings you soup, like her neighbor's soup when they're sick and stuff like that. She's super friendly. And she was getting so much inventory from people they just gave her their goodwill and stuff. Like they were like, "Oh, we don't need money for this. We love you, and
Okay.
you're so
Mm,
nice. Just whatever you get for it." So tell people what you do, and you can get, and that's a great way to learn too. And that's why I became, I think, really good at selling women's fashion, knowing what to buy because of my consignment clients. So, like today, I just started going through it. There's a bunch of brands I've never seen before that I don't know, like men's streetwear and stuff.
mhm.
It's all real. I know it's all real. And so I'm going to learn some new stuff this month
Yep.
with no risk because if it doesn't sell, I'm not out any money.
Right.
And now I have all these new brands to learn. So if you're struggling, tell people what you do and you don't just start telling people what you do. Don't be like, I don't know any rich people. Trust me, everyone has stuff.
Yeah, you'd be I absolutely, like, I always think like, oh, I have teacher friends and stuff. And guess what? They have clothes. Like, they gotta wear things. And yeah, just like you what am I trying to say? I sometimes we assume we know everything about our friends. Well, I know where they shop. I know this. You don't know the thing they have in the back in their closet. You don't know that leather jacket they got in Italy 5 years ago and they never wore. Like it really, my one friend, teacher friend, her husband, oh no, was it her jacket? Some, motorcycle jacket. I didn't know she rode motorcycles.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
so
right.
it's like, oh my God, you ride motorcycles and now I have this jacket. I
Yeah.
sold it for like 150. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea she had, you know, that stuff. And then she had a silk dress and all. I always see her in like, flip-flops and shorts,
Right.
regular casual. She's not wearing her motorcycle jacket around me.
Right.
You really never know
You don't know.
what your
And
friends have.
their parents get old and move or downsize or
Mhm.
go to assisted living. I've gone to houses before garage sales. Like one of my friends is like, I'm having a garage sale this weekend. Would you like to come over and pick it first? And I was like, yeah. And I got all the good stuff. So if you went to that garage sale, you're like, this garage sale sucks because I got everything good. Or my brother's boat mechanic, his mother passed away and she was a shopaholic and he had no idea what to do with the stuff. And my brother-in-law was like, call my sister. And I like got to pick an estate sale
Oh,
before the estate sale company got there.
it's a dream. Oh my gosh.
So tell people what you do and don't assume that you don't. I don't know anybody that lives in a 10 bedroom. I don't know anyone that lives in a 10 bedroom house. I was at a friend's house. She happened to have a decorator helping her. And we were talking and he's like, and she said, oh, she's the eBay girl. He goes, oh, I know somebody and gave me that. So I've never advertised my consignment business. It's always somebody, a friend of somebody.
Awesome.
And when I started, my girlfriends had stuff, but we were 30. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't,
Right.
their moms, they started telling their moms because I sold stuff for
Mhm.
them. And then the moms were 50, 60, 70. The moms had the St. John suits and the Chanel suits and all of that stuff. And so it's a great way of learning, of getting inventory, especially when your daughter's a little bigger. It's going to be
Mhm.
really hard for you to it's really hard to thrift with a toddler. Or any kid like from now until she's probably like 16, she's
Right.
probably not going to want to thrift with you.
Right.
Um and so it's a way to get a lot of inventory in a very quick, efficient manner.
Yeah.
And you don't spend money on inventory until it sells. So I think that's a great way. And it adds really good, like some of the stuff in my eBay store, it brings in more traffic. So I got
Oh,
a lot of Louis Vuitton monogram stuff from clients in the past couple months. That just drives traffic into my eBay store, and so even
absolutely.
though that stuff hasn't sold, because sometimes that stuff takes longer to sell, it brought in more views,
Yep.
more people walking in the door, more people are gonna maybe make offers or whatever. So
Absolutely. I know my husband's, and he does like Amazon FBA with books and then electronics on eBay, and or like electronics, DVDs, video games, that stuff. And sometimes he'll pick up, like a DVD or a video game where like it's not maybe even worth a lot of money, but he knows that it's going to drive so much traffic to his closet. And they say like, "Oh wait, you have that CRT TV? Oh, I like this," and like it's heaven
Right.
for all those like game nerds and they just, and yeah, it's that type of strategy of like, well, yeah, what, this may not sell right away, but when it does, it's going to be bank. And two, it's just going to bring in more customers until then. So it's a win-win.
Well, that's like a good point too. And in my coaching calls on Monday, I've talked about this. When you have a bunch of stuff in your store that's not great, it
Mhm.
can really hurt your business because you think, oh, I'm just going to list everything. I'm going to list my old socks and I'm going to list this old t-shirt with stains on it. And,
Right.
somebody will buy it. But what happens is a
Mhm.
lot of times, like when I'm on eBay or Poshmark, and I'm like, let me see the seller's other stuff. So I'm looking for one thing, and I go in your closet, and I'm looking for a Coach bag, and I see your closet, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look at her other stuff, and I'm like, oh, I hope she has more vintage Coach. But then you have a bunch of Walmart clothes. Nothing bad about Walmart, but you know what I mean. Bunch
Mhm.
of stuff that looks like a flea market or like a bad flea market, and the back button is clicked.
Yeah.
Or I think, and I have bought a lot of stuff to resell this way. Like I
Mhm.
bought two pairs of Prada shoes from a seller because that was the only good thing in in her eBay store. All the other stuff was like literal garbage. And so I looked at her store and I'm like, she's gonna take $20. Like I made a really low ball offer and she took it.
Right.
I know
Because
you
she's
talked about
yeah.
that this week or last week. Um, about low ball offers. I send low ball offers.
Right.
Gonna get
It's the way
another
of
thumbs
life.
down.
Like,
I sent a low ball offer and she took it.
yeah.
And I made $100 on a pair of shoes. So having bad stuff in your store can definitely work the opposite. So if you have good stuff in your store and it drives traffic and they say, oh, well, I don't want that Louis Vuitton bag, but look at those cute shoes,
Hmm.
it can help.
Right. It's that same kind of like why Poshmark has sharing because, right, if actually my friend, I felt so bad. She was like, "Oh, I'm just going to share some things for your closet." I helped her with something. And oh my gosh, she fell in love with a pair of boots and was, it's like, Laura, like, just, like, hold on. Yeah. But that's why Poshmark does the sharing and all this because, right, one item kind of leads to another and da 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 da. And suddenly you got three new shirts. So it's that yeah, like the energy of your eBay store and your Poshmark closet and how it looks and does it keep someone there or are they going to say, oh, like, well, yeah, they have, a Chanel bag, but everything else is disgusting. Who knows what that should, like, it's, you want your closet to be
I
attractive.
don't think it has to be curated. So sometimes people are
Right.
like, should my closet be curated? And, you know, I did see when I was doing my sourcing school lesson today, I saw somebody who had only St. John suits and clothing, St. John, and hundreds of pieces, and got huge, huge dollars for them. But that was her whole eBay store was just St. John clothes. And I love that for her. Like, I think that's amazing. And so I don't think you have to curate, but if you have stuff, just if it's been sitting for a year and it's got no likers and no watchers and no offers and it's just meh, unless sometimes we have to be honest and only we can be honest about our own inventory. Like I've done closet, consultations, whatever. I look at people's closets, they ask me, and I'm like, you know,
Right.
I mean, you got to be honest with yourself. The garbage is, I have two eBay stores. One of them is fashion and the other one is like other stuff. And the other stuff I don't mix in with my store because I feel like it does detract. So if
Mhm.
I'm selling, I sold like a Christmas stocking yesterday for $20. And that's not really my business model, but I didn't want that next to the Louis Vuitton bag. I thought it would take away from it. So,
I totally know what you mean. And also, and then on Poshmark, I'm very like conscientious of, is it worth the share? Because I really like to maximize. I like to keep my inventory small.
right.
And I'm like, okay, that means I got to maximize my shares. So sometimes yeah, after a couple weeks, I'm like, oh, this item, I have it listed for 20. I'll take 15. This is taking up a share, not worth my time or money. Like I got to move on. And it's, yeah, making my closet. not feel the way I want it to feel, like yeah, it might be,
I
I don't know.
love that. I never even thought about that maximizing the share. I'm going to start thinking about that because I think my Poshmark closet is a little too big now. And yeah, so if you only get 8,000 shares a day, my stuff is only getting shared 8 times. If I had half the stuff, it'd be getting shared double and it would probably be selling more. I like that. I'm going to think about that.
Yeah, and that's, I think for me, that's one of the advantages of like, because everyone and their mother is selling Coach bags on Poshmark now. Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of bag sellers have so many bags and maybe only get so many shares. So I try to constantly stay on top of all of them to quickly move things. So, just a different business model. But yeah, I always try to think, like, is this worth my share? I don't know. Toss it out.
I like that. That's a good way of looking at it. I'm going to start thinking about that.
Let's see. And lastly, a very big picture question, which I feel like we've kind of already covered, but you know, the future of reselling. Do you have any formal predictions? And if not, or if so, either way, how should resellers prepare for the next year or 5 years, if we can even comprehend that?
Ugh.
I know.
I think I, I, I I think, during the pandemic, it was like the halcyon days of reselling. Like I thought the pandemic was going to be horrible for reselling. My prediction was way off. I was like, we got to hunker down. No one's going to have any money. Everyone's home. And it was the opposite. People just were buying anything and everything. But people, it's so expensive. I don't have to tell anybody. Like to feed your family, to put gas in your car, everything's so expensive. And so people are still spending money. People that have money are still spending it. So every plane I've been on since the pandemic, every is full. Every hotel that I stayed in pre-pandemic and now is double or triple the price. We used to go, like I live in South Florida, we could jump on a cruise ship. We used to be able to jump on a cruise ship, the two of us, for $1,000 for a weekend. Now it's like, if you want to do it for a weekend, like $3,000, like insane, right? So people are still going, people are still doing, people are still buying, but they're being picky.
Mhm.
And so they want a nice sweater. They don't want five crappy Shein sweaters, although I guess maybe people are still buying all that stuff, but they certainly aren't going to buy it from you and me. And so maybe they want a nice Coach bag that they know they can carry for a year and the strap isn't going to break. Or they
Mhm.
want, and it doesn't have to be Gucci and Prada. It just they're looking for things that they know are good quality. And so if you focus on quality, not
Mhm.
quantity, I think you will be fine.
I
That's
love
my
that.
prediction. And hopefully things will be great. Hopefully think the world will be great and America will be great and
Everything's gonna be fine.
everything. Yeah, oh,
Oh,
you know, the earth will
I
cool down. I don't know, but
yeah,
hopefully we won't have any more global pandemics or anything, but just go with the flow and take those offers because you never
thank you. Oh my God.
take those offers.
Right?
And one just came in while we're talking. Take those offers. You don't need to take the $10 offers. You don't need to take the lowball offers, but take those offers because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. So better to have the money than
Yeah,
the items.
absolutely. Oh my God. That I think needs to be tattooed on like every reseller's brain. Money is better than the items. We
They're
want the
always
money.
my sister always says that. They're always my sister's not a reseller, but she's like, throw that away. They're gonna make more. They'll make more. If you need it,
Mm,
there's more. They'll always make more. There's always gonna be stuff at the thrift store.
right.
You'd always buy more. And the good thing is if you take those offers and you have a little money in your bank account, you can go thrifting and buy some more stuff.
Exactly. You literally, I just made a post. I don't know when it maybe for tomorrow that says like if you have a death pile and you like to thrift, accept more offers. Right? Like just because then you have more money and then you could do what you like and you won't feel guilty. Like it's a win-win. Win-win.
Yeah, and I know you made like how much money did you miss out by not taking offers? And I love that because honestly, once in a while, I won't take an offer. I'm holding out. I think the item's worth $50 and somebody offers me 45 and I'm just being stupid and I take the countering and countering countering is better than declining. However, most of the time people have moved on.
Yeah.
So if you've got a decent offer and you're going to make some money, and I do believe that my sales are consistent because my sales are consistent. So
Mm.
sales bring sales, action brings action. I sell stuff every single day and I take offers every single day. I send out manual offers twice a day, which is a big pain in the butt, but I don't use my bot to send offers. I send manual offers in the morning and at night, and it helps.
Right.
Send good offers. Don't send, I got an offer yesterday for 6% off on eBay. Something I liked. 6%. And
What?
it said, here's your offer, it's 6%. And I was like, what?
Why would I get out of bed for that?
Like, okay, if I wanted it, I would have made an offer.
Right.
So, maybe if they would have offered 15 or 20%, I might have like maybe looked again. But yeah,
Yeah.
make good offers. Make your on eBay, you can make your bottom line offer as your first and only offer. So if somebody likes it, you can make an offer and you can say no counter offers. And so
Yes.
if you think something's worth $30, that's your bottom line, send that $30 off. Don't send a 40 or $50. Send the
Yeah.
$30 offer. Make it, oh, look, I like this item. And they're sending me a 40% off or 20% off or something.
Yeah. Yeah, because buyers typically don't want to do the whole back and forth. It's not fun for anyone, usually, right? We don't like to, it's awkward and you're not face to face. It's very uncomfortable for both parties. So the less we have that, and the more cha-ching, cha-ching.
Right. And most of the time they've moved on. They've moved on because most of the stuff we're selling aren't needs. Selling wants is better than selling needs because you don't have as much competition. And so you think you want a pair of shoes and you're looking, and then the next day you might be like, oh, what was I thinking? I don't need those shoes. So
All the time.
strike while the iron's hot is very, we always need the shoe. I always need the shoes,
Right.
but maybe I don't really need the shoes.
Even just 2 days ago, I liked a shirt on Poshmark. I think she had it at 20. I offered 15. She countered at 17. And I was like, I don't need it that badly. So I left it.
No,
Yeah, it's like I don't like I like clearly do not need another shirt. Like,
no, no. Well, you might have.
right. I probably do, I probably do.
I think you do, but yeah, over $2. Don't lose a sale over $2, even if it's $15 to $17. Certainly, if it's $100 and $98, don't lose a sale over $2. And I mean, how many of those items truly are you looking at in a couple months? And you're like, damn, I should have taken the offer.
All the time. And you're like, oh man.
You're
Maybe
in the
maybe
moving
this was
business, not
fun.
the. My husband always says, like, if I'm ever out with him and I get an offer or something, I'm like, oh, he's like, take it. You're in the moving business. Move the merch, move the
Good for
merchandise.
him. Good for him.
Well,
Yeah. You're like, all right.
no, for years, the stuff was in my house and
Mhm.
all over my house. Like when Thanksgiving came, like it was a whole project to make my house look like a house.
Right.
And we were going to sell our house. And he said, we cannot sell our house with tubs of eBay crap everywhere. So I got a storage unit and it was like the best thing I ever did. So
That's good to
now,
hear.
other than my office, my house, we moved, but my house looks like a house. Um,
Feels
Maybe not my office, but the rest of my house, like if you just drop by, it looks like people live there and not a warehouse. So he was always, aware of how much stuff. Now he doesn't go to my storage, and so he doesn't really know. But
well,
um,
we'll keep an
when it
eye
was
on it.
all over the house, he was like, "Please take the offer, get it out of here."
Right, right. Yeah, it's funny now. I mean, Charlie, he's like I said, he's a very successful reseller and definitely knows his stuff, but I do think being the death pile diva helps because once in a while he'll just randomly go like, I'm listing my death pile. I'm like, okay, I didn't okay, good for you. Okay.
That's so funny. this morning, my husband's like, "What's your day like?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have a Zoom call. Being interviewed for a Zoom." And he goes, "With who?" I go, "The Death Pile Diva." And he was like, "Okay," like it doesn't even question. And I'm probably like, you're probably like this too. Like I'm like, my friend, and
Mhm.
he's like, "What friend?" And I'm like, "Oh, Death Pile Diva." Like
Oh,
my friend said that we need to go to this restaurant. Who's your friend? Oh, my Instagram friend, like
it
my
literally
imaginary friend.
all the time. My mom goes like, "Oh, is this the one who lives in California?" I'm like, "Yes."
But the best part is when you actually meet your reselling friends, it's great. So like I can't go to Posh Fest. I never make it to Posh Fest. But like if you can go to Posh Fest, it's so much fun to meet other resellers.
I
It's
can't
so much
agree.
fun. They're always great. Even the ones you think like I've met some of the ones that you'd be like, ooh, like some of the guy reseller,
Hmm.
at eBay Open and stuff. They're great. They're great in person. And so all the resellers I've met, all my Instagram friends that I met in person are like the best.
That's so cool.
So
That's awesome.
are you going to Posh Fest?
I am.
Oh, you're gonna have so much fun.
My first one. I can't
I
wait.
never have been able to go. We have another trip planned, but I would have gone. Nashville's gonna be fire. You guys are gonna have a blast.
So
So much
first
fun.
time away from baby and all that stuff. So
That's
yeah,
the best. Is your husband going with you or you're leaving
no,
him?
I'm leaving
Oh,
him.
girls' time.
Hmm.
Oh,
So
fun, fun, fun.
I'm so
It's
excited.
fun. Resellers are super fun. They're like your people, and it's gonna be so much fun. You have so much fun. I wish I was going. Maybe next year.
Yeah, next year. All
No,
right.
and I encourage. So when there's a Posh and Sip in your neighborhood or an eBay event or something, if you can't go to Posh Fest, eBay Open is virtual again, but
Okay.
meet other resellers because it's really nice to have local friends that are resellers. It's like meeting your coworkers. It's super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really and like you said, because we don't really get to talk shop a lot. We're in our offices alone. So, and yeah, we talk on social media, okay. But it's so great when you can just sit down with someone and just really talk reselling and you don't have to say like, oh, well, COG is cost of good. You don't have
Yeah.
to like constantly break it down and
Right.
like, oh, it's just the best. And hopefully one day, let me see, you're in Miami. I don't
I'm
know,
in
one day I'll make
Miami.
it to Florida.
Come to Florida. Come not now. It's too hot.
Yeah, no, I would
It's
not.
hot or it's hot and rainy. So it rains and you think it will cool down and it's worse.
Oh, no.
It's like today is rainy and hot.
Oh,
It's
no.
so, Florida.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Now, before we end, I just want to give you a chance to talk about sourcing school, because obviously you know a lot more about it
I
than I
love
do.
sourcing school.
Yeah, it is amazing. Everyone needs to listen right now.
Okay. So I've been teaching this online class sourcing school for I think 5 or 6 years. And I started it because just saw some bad information online and I didn't want to hurt anyone's business. So it's only $10 a month and I post weekly videos and I never raise the price and I talk about what to buy when you're reselling. So I talk about brands, I talk about only what's selling. So I don't go, "Oh, I bought this. It's gonna sell for. It's
No
sold
holes.
for." Right, and why it sold. So if I'm talking
Mhm.
about like an Eileen Fisher shirt, I'm going to tell you why I picked it up and why it sold. And my sweet spot is my average cost of goods is $4, my average sales price is $40. And so I talk about finding stuff within $3 to $5 that will sell for $30 to $50. That gives you at least $20 profit per item. $20 5 times is $100. If you did that every day, that's $36,000 profit. That's a great little business, right?
Heck yeah.
Great little business. You want to triple it, sell 15 things with $20 profit in it a day, you're at 100K. So I like that. I talk about that. So I'm not like, hey, look for all the Gucci, because of course we know to look for the
Like, duh.
Gucci. But I
Right? Yeah.
talk about brands you've never heard of. I talk about brands that other thrifters walk right by. I talk about brands
Mhm.
thrift stores don't mark up. And I post a video every week and you can watch it whenever you want. And
Awesome.
it's been really, really successful. And I didn't realize it when I started it, but I really have loved helping other people work less and make more because it is really, besides sourcing, that's sort of like the secret sauce of make it worth your time. Everything should be worth your time. And so you don't feel like, oh my God, I worked so hard this week and I didn't make any money. I hate that. So
Yeah.
it's
And
my
only
Patreon.
$10 a
It's
month?
what?
only $10 a month? I thought it was
$10 a
like a
month.
week or something. That is
No,
amazing.
it's $10 a month. So yeah, and I never raised it. And when I started, and my husband was like, "You're a lawyer. You get paid more than like you
Yeah.
should be charging more." And I'm like, "You don't know my audience. They're thrifters. We don't like spending a lot of money." And I
Right.
never raised the price. And there's some people who have been in it for 5 or 6 years for the whole time. And um, you can cancel at any time. It's just through Patreon. And I do really like helping other resellers. And I really think it's really, I love hearing people's success stories. So it's, you can email me at sourcingschool@gmail.com, or you can find it on my Instagram. I'm always plugging it, but it's fun.
No, and that's such a really good alternative to thrift hauls to say, like, hey, yes, here's what actually sold.
And why. And I talk about and why. So I don't just say buy the Eileen Fisher shirt. I tell you which Eileen Fisher shirts to buy, which ones not to buy, and
Mm,
how to market it, and what pictures you should like, that type of thing. So every week we talk about different brands, and we last week I did a video of all like weird brands that you probably never heard of that sell for good
mm,
money. So, and I'm always learning from it too, because I do research. I don't just show what I sold. I talk about other people who sold the similar things and what we
mm,
can, because brand name is not enough. Bottom line, brand name is not enough. So, some Coach handbags sell for $500, some won't sell at all. And so you can't say buy all the Coach handbags, because um, that's not
right.
really helpful.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, I think this is fantastic. I think a lot of resellers need sourcing school because it is right. Because we're so bombarded with the thrift hauls and the bolos and the this and the that. And, we just get bits of information and then, we do our best with it. But I know when I first started, the first YouTube video I watched was of some sweet reseller talking about all the LuLaRoe that
I know, right?
and I was like, fantastic. I saw it at the thrift store. I'm gonna go back. I got so much LuLaRoe, probably $7, $8 a piece. We know how that worked out. So, but because
They were very comfortable, those leggings.
I love their shirts and
I was
dresses.
sleeping in those leggings that I
Yeah,
bought that didn't sell. Yeah.
right. Like they were comfy and the sizing was good and all that. Like, love
I
that.
know.
Yeah, like I'm that person who still buys LuLaRoe also because everyone sells it for like $9, so it's great. Um,
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I see on the online. Like they're like, "What brand do you never buy? What brand do you always buy?" And I'm like, I think I need to do a TikTok like brands I buy. There isn't one that I always buy. I passed on Chanel a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't a good style. It was too expensive. It wasn't good condition. And so you can't say buy all the Chanel, no matter, or don't ever buy the LuLaRoe. There's probably a couple of LuLaRoe pieces. I haven't looked lately, but there might be a couple that are bolos. I don't know. You would have to look it up. So, you
so,
know,
yeah,
there's never say never. There's H&M
that's so
pieces
true.
that sell.
Yes.
Should you buy H&M? Most of the time, no, but a couple of pieces probably still sell.
Right. And it's
So,
that why piece that is the selling point, right? Oh, because of da 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 da.
right,
You want to pick it up.
right. Be on the lookout for that. Right.
That is fantastic. Oh my gosh, Julie, this has been so
I feel
uplifting
like
for
we're
me.
good buddies now.
I know, like, in my spirit, and like, I just want to make all the money now. I
Go
just
make all
want
the
to move,
money.
right?
Go make
And
all the money so you can hire a babysitter.
right, no, that's actually, and right to your point, I really focused like the beginning of this year, like, okay, how can I afford a babysitter? And when I started looking, I was like, oh, you know what? I can't. But now, come September, she's going to be in daycare, a home daycare 2 days a week. I'm
That's great.
so excited.
It's
It'll be good for
huge.
her, good for me. And right, even though I'm paying to have her there those 2 days, I'm going to make so much more money or set myself up to make more money during those 2 days. So it'll work.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah, help is good.
Yes, yes, take the help.
Take the
Take the
take
help.
the help. My mom gives good advice about that. She was like, my mom had a babysitter every Saturday night my entire life until I was old enough to watch myself. And she was like, you need a babysitter every Saturday night. And I'm like, no, we don't. And then I was like, you know what? If you can afford a babysitter every Saturday night and you go out with your husband, that's wonderful. Now babysitters are so expensive. Like
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
think you can have one every Saturday, but maybe once a month have a Saturday night or get do a baby swap. Have your friend watch your babies next Saturday. You watch the babies or your mom or whatever.
Yes,
Taking a
absolutely.
little break is good. It's
Yes.
very good.
It's
Good for
so
the
important.
marriage, good for the mind.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the body, and then I'm a better mom. Yeah.
Well, it's true. It is because happy mommies have happy babies.
Yeah. No, I can tell like I'd say maybe once every 3 weeks or so, Charlie will come home from sourcing and I'm like, you need to take her because I need to step away. Like,
Yeah.
you just,
And that will be for a long time. I mean, social media makes every parent like the parenting look so glamorous. I'm so glad I didn't have social media when I was a new mom. I just had my friends and we would just complain to each other, and that was
right.
wonderful. But now, every mom just looks so fabulous and
Oh,
their homes look so clean and their kids are so clean. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm glad we didn't have to do this when had
no, I
babies
just
because
unfollowed a
woo,
bunch of, yeah, like mommy, accounts. And because I thought, like, oh, yeah, let me follow them. This is great. No, it really messed with my
their
mind.
outfits and their hair always look so beautiful. And I mean, there was a picture of me with my kids like on the first day of one of the preschool years, and literally I, I look like they found me on the side of the road. The kids looked adorable, but I look like I'm in my pajamas taking my kids to school. My husband must have snapped a picture of the three of us, and I'm glad we saved it because if it was a digital camera, I would have deleted it. But I mean, all of that is don't let that make you think everyone's so fabulous because I don't think they are.
No. And it's all for engagement or sales. And, everyone's doing something on
Their
Instagram.
hair always looks so perfectly curled in the morning. They all have that really pretty.
Gorgeous, like and fresh look. Yeah, one lady, she's like, let's do my makeup before we pick up my son from school. It's like, oh, I don't relate to this at all.
And their kitchens are always so clean. Their houses are always so clean. And my house was, I mean, it was clean, but it was messy.
Yes, right?
It was always messy. There was always crap. My dining room table was I had a blog for a while, and one of my blog posts was like, "What's on my kitchen table today?"
Right.
And it was like every week I'd be like, "What's on my kitchen table today? What's on my dining room table today?"
No, it's just, and that's literally the past month, that's what we've fallen into. Because I love a clean house and I love being organized
Yeah,
and everything's still clean, but wow, is the house messy. And that's just how it is now.
it gets worse.
Okay.
It gets worse because she's gonna start really move. Toddler life is baby life's delicious. Toddler life is so much fun. But yeah, there's stuff everywhere.
My husband recently, he was like, why is everything wet? I'm like, everything's going to be wet for the next 5 years. Like, just get ready. All gonna be squishy.
Uh yeah, but it's fun and she's so cute. So enjoy her because then they turn into teenagers.
They'll grow out of being teenagers.
They're amazing. Having kids is amazing. Kids are great. And adult children are wonderful too. Like my kids
Mhm.
are really cool. They're fun to hang out with now and they're
Mhm.
you know, it's a lot and give yourself grace. Would be my advice.
I think that's the biggest takeaway. Yeah, definitely give yourself. I love that. Oh my gosh, Julie, this has been like such an
So
honor,
fun.
such a pleasure. Yeah, now we
Okay.
need to be neighbors. We'll make it work. I don't know how, but
We're
we'll figure
buddies
it out.
now. We're
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
Friends for life.
No, it's
Okay. Great. Thanks so
um,
much.
thank you. Thank you all for watching. Be sure I will have all of her info here. So click on all the links, check out her sourcing school, Instagram, Poshmark, eBay, all the things. Thank you so, so much, Julie. I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, guys, be sure to tune in next week for another reseller and more tips on how to grow your business. See you on the flip side.